والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله.
They command and enjoin the good and forbid the evil. They do tawasi bil haqq wa tawasi bil sabr. They recommend one another with the truth and being patient upon it. When trials come forward, we increase in knowledge and how to equip ourselves to dealing with it. Al-ilm, knowledge, is both for offense and defense. Ilm is used as armory. Ilm is used as a weapon to defend yourself. Ilm is what strengthens you inwardly and outwardly. ظاهرا وباطنا. It is upon us to address these topics, even though some topics initially you perhaps may shy away to speak of, but the world is no longer shy about it. In the schools of our children, they have been forced onto them and imposed the topic of sex education. The children are told, even in Denmark, I believe, in some of the syllables, is the topic of pornography. In fact, I was reading an article from Daily Mail where it mentions how a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old are being taught about the topic of anal sex in school, with 9-year-olds are told to masturbate for homework. The lesson plans of these teachers that were once inaccessible, it was secret. The parents were not allowed to have access to lesson plans of the teachers of what they're teaching their children in these schools. So now it's being exposed gradually that the syllables of some of these affairs of sex education that our children are being taught, us that were so shy to speak about, someone else is speaking to them regarding these matters. So as a disclaimer, we need to speak about these topics, yes, even for the young ones, because they're being taught by other than us, in other than the way of Islam, and wordings that la yaliq, it is not appropriate at all. But the reminder, inshallah, and these gatherings perhaps may reach its place, and it perhaps may benefit some from the angle فَلْيُبَلِّغْ الشَّاهِدَ الْغَائِبِ. Let those who are present from you convey to those who are absent. The word of mouth, the da'wah of spreading what we learn, inshallah, do never degrade it. If كذبة واحدة تبلغ الآفاق, brothers, a fake lie can reach one part of the world, and in the fastest of moments, we know the truth is greater. قُلْ نَقْذِفُ بِالْحَقِّ عَلَى الْبَاطِلِ فَيَدْمَغُهُ فَإِذَا هُوَ زَاهِقٌ. We can teach what is correct, and those teachings, inshallah, will reach the furthest places with sincerity and ikhlas. Dear respected brothers and sisters in faith, we know this topic of pornography, it is not what people limit it to. People assume the word pornography, it is just nudity alone, or the act of intimacy between a man and a wife being actually occurring, but it's greater than that. Pornography, as found in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is a representation of sexual behavior in books, pictures, statues, films, and other media outlets that is intended to cause sexual excitement. The original word of pornography is a Greek word. It was something of written poems or wordings about prostitutes. initially referred to visual or written matter designed to cause sexual arousal, a meaning that is still the common element that is found. Anything initially that of speech or photos or films or statues that arises the desire, it is pornography. This is what it is, and it is of levels. And we're going to speak about it, where they call it soft porn and hard porn and different types of pornography. But all of that needs to be told, and we need to be warned that this is sharrun mustatir wa amrun khatir. It is a matter that our deed is being targeted, and our children and our families are being affected by just surfing the web alone. In the year 1953, we read that the first magazine or the first affair that was published was Playboy magazine. That was the first thing. Those were the times where a person would perhaps hide these magazines under their bed, hiding from their parents, feeling that the only time they can look at it when everyone is fast asleep. يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من الله. Where they conceal from the people, but they don't conceal from Allah, while Allah is with them throughout all of their times. So this is some of the back words of it, where we see how it was in that state. But now, because of it being on a click of a button, you can be actually sitting in front of someone, watching the most despicable of images, and be sitting in the most righteous of places, in front of the most righteous of people. People do not understand that this device has access to all khaba'ith, all filth, through the click of a button. Dirasat, studies have shown that the entry of these websites that people are surfing have become such level addiction, ashad min idman, from more severe than the addiction of cocaine and heroin. The reason they say that is because they said cocaine and heroin, you could find a cure to remove it. But they say the addiction or the affair of this lust, this sickness that people are taken by, of these images that are seen online. And it not necessarily means that the woman is completely naked. It could even be a woman that is semi-naked, or a man in the image for the woman that arises her desire. That in itself is pornography of its minimal levels. Where it remains in the fikr, tabqa fil fikr, it remains in the mind. Ila abad al-abad, it remains forever, illa insha'Allah. They said qalla, rare studies have shown that the person who's been exposed to these images and these books and these films and these websites and these ads, it is rare that it leaves his body or his memory complete, nothing of that remaining. The word pornography first appeared in the Oxford Dictionary in the year 1857. It will start to expand gradually amongst the people. The biggest of its era was in the year 2007, where a website was launched called Pornhub. It was the first website to make porn widely available to watch online. You find number 1 in 4 searches online is about pornography. In fact, the only taboo of pornography that is universally not accepted yet is child pornography, and that is eventually on the progress of them reaching to that level. ما يأتي زمان إلا والذي بعده شر منه. It doesn't come a time except the time after it is worse than the time before it. We must understand that this affair has so much ill effects in reality, even to the Muslims as a country, as a community, as people that are giving da'wah. And we're going to speak about that. That pornography, some of the highest countries that watch pornography, you'll be shocked that it's coming from Muslim countries. Yes, there's a target for the Muslim countries of streaming it there and putting more effort towards that direction. But we need to educate ourselves further and further about this affair. As we mentioned, the internet, with its free nature, pornography has become one of the most viewed explicit contents of the internet. And it's becoming the talk of the gatherings. We find research has found that the youth that seek out porn or watch these affairs are engaged to sexual behaviors of the most disgusting of acts because of what they have seen with the eye. And this leads us to understand كل الحوادث مبدأها من النظر ومعظم النار من مستصغر الشرر. Most of the disasters, the tragedies on earth, is due to what the eyes have seen. ومعظم النار من مستصغر الشرر. And most of the fire is a buildup of sparks. A glance here, a glance there. لا مرحبا بسرور جاء بالضرر. No welcome to an enjoyment that a person may perhaps had of his lust that brought an end of remorse and regrets. We must understand, as Ibn Qayyim, he addressed his matter in his book, Ad-Da' wad-Dawa, and it was one of the best books. Anyone that has the weakness of not controlling his lust and desires of watching certain content online, and being able to see certain things that are inappropriate from the opposite gender, and continue to stare, then this book is advised to read. Ibn Qayyim, he says, النظر أصل عامة الحوادث التي تصيب الإنسان. It is the origin, the glance, it is the origin of all tragedies that a man is afflicted with. فإن النظرة تولد الخطرة. Verily the glance produces a thought. ثم تولد الخطرة فكرة. Then that thought leads to engaging, minding of thinking of something. ثم تولد الفكرة شهوة. Then that mind that you're engaging with of that particular affair leads to lust and desire. ثم تولد الشهوة إرادة. Then that lust and desires lead to craving and wanting to do so. And then it leads to a level where it's called the azima, where a person is determined to do the act of filth. Brothers and sisters, we must understand that the moment you turn on the internet, you're being targeted with this affair. How could we be somewhat oblivious of the matter? When you watch podcasts, or you perhaps want to watch a regular film of what these people on average may want to watch, even in the soap operas, we find that this is it. When I was coming on the plane, you try to skim through and see what these people are watching. You see content that is explicit of behavior of man and wife, of what is the relations of intimacy. In fact, the person sitting in front of me, He was completely ignored and zoomed throughout the plane ride into watching that content throughout it. And his son is sitting right beside him, just playing the video game. One is addicted to a game, the other one is addicted to pornography. And these are the two biggest addictions in the world: games and pornography. Sitting right beside him, father and son. This is the matter that we need to speak about. We find that this affair, it has its cure from the book of Allah and from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a solution in dealing with it. But first, we need to understand the disease. They say, إِذَا عُرِفَ الدَّاءُ عُرِفَ الدَّوَاءُ. If you know the problem and the disease, then we can address it and cure it as it deserves to be cured. We find people don't actually know that what they're watching is pornography. They're oblivious, they're ignorant. Soft-core porn typically contains partial nudity and sexual suggestive scenes, but does not include explicit sexual activity. So some people, they may be watching partial nudity. It's just person perhaps semi-naked. They're watching this. Most of the act, the male or the female, is not properly clothed, and it is what is carried, the actions and the behavior is done to sexually arouse the viewers. This is pornography. You watching this, you're watching a portion of pornography, whether you know it or not. That's why some of what people forward now. You see a Muslim brother, he forwards you something. You open it up, you see it's behavior that initially was intended is to arouse the desire of the opposite gender. The people that are half naked, or perhaps greater portionally, there's nothing left. Their affair is kasiyat, ariyat, clothed but naked. There are people are forwarding these contacts under a particular benefit of some other objective, but while you're watching, you're seeing the initial affair. Why is these people dressed like that, if they're actually dressed? Why is this woman carrying herself in that particular manner? These are all targeted, and it doesn't come directly as pornography, but this is what the content is portraying. From the top 10 porn-watching countries in the entire world, and we're not to attack any countries, brothers, but this is to show you that these Muslim countries are being targeted, of these content being thrown to their route. And it's Siham Masmuma min Iblis. Consider this as arrows, poisonous arrows from Iblis. Muslims are targeted greatly with the topic of pornography. In fact, some of the downloading apps, or some of the things that you want to find in Arabic, the ones that have the most ads are for what comes in the region of the Muslim continents. So from the countries, Pakistan, Egypt, Morocco, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, they're engrossed. They're from the top. Alongside there's Kufa countries as well, but this is just to point out for them to be at the highest. They even mention in Ramadan, pornography, the data shows that there's a decrease of it being watched. What happened? Most of the Muslims are not watching it. Those content that was being watched in certain countries, they said to the studies, the kuffar are saying this, it decreases in Ramadan. Outside Ramadan, it goes back up again. This is what we need to address. They say the day that is the most popular day to watch pornography is Sunday to them. Because the people are off, less distracting. This shows you one of the cures of getting your mind off these things is being productive and busy. Striving. Don't be insan that has an idle time. A very idle time is the playground of the devil. Sitting around, surfing the web from one affair to the other, it is actually a web where people get caught into. It is a shabaka. The internet is a web. People get trapped into it by constantly surfing without no objective. He said, I'm just waiting to see what YouTube points me to, the algorithm. He just finds that algorithm supposedly takes him to filth. And this is the web that captures him into it. Even in certain matches of the Super Bowl, they found in certain years, they said it was accidentally aired for 37 seconds, pornography in between. They said it was accidentally aired. This is not an accident, brothers. These are things that are intended and objective. To a point now, WHO, the World Health Organization, has considered this behavioral disorder as a high level of an addiction that people cannot control. And the stats indicate this. Around 35% of all internet downloads are pornography based. Today, porn sites receive more website traffic in the US than Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Netflix, and all of these other websites, Zoom, combined. The top 3 porn websites in the world receive a combined of 5.8 billion website visits per month. 1 in 5 mobile searches are for pornography. This is a disease that is affecting the people. Why are we acting as if this is not going to affect our communities? We need to address it. We need to remind the people, istahyi min nadari lillah. Be shy from the fact that Allah can see you. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Does he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see him while he's engaging into these sites? While he's looking. While you even perhaps saying, I'm entering this site for this particular downloads, but throughout it, while you're waiting, you have to look at all that filth. There's a lack of awareness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing us. He said, Akbaru zajirin, the greatest thing that could prohibit us from these matters and falling into it is muraqabatullah, knowing that Allah can see us at all times. الَّذِي يَرَاكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ, the one who can see you when you stand. It is وَاعِدُ اللَّهِ فِي كُلِّ قَلْبِ مُؤْمِنٍ. It is the admonition of Allah in the heart of every believer. This is what helped Yusuf alayhi salam at that moment where he was being seduced by Imratul Aziz. He there then, when he seen Burhana Rabbi, the Burhan of his Lord, the scholars in the tafsir said is Wa'idullah fi qalbi kulli mu'min. It is the admonition of Allah that protected, and Allah granted him isma and making him infallible, saved him from that affair. It is upon us to understand what happens is intended for your corruption of your religion. All affairs, whether universally, whatever religion you are, it is to get you to this level of behavior where it even affects your relationship with your own spouse, if you're married or on the verge to get married. They say those who watch pornography, they get affected even before they get married and later on in the relationship. And we'll explain how. And every 39 minutes, the US states produce a new pornography film. Every 39 minutes, a new film is being produced. The websites of pornography online is over 100,000. And of various of types. And we know pornography leads to so much evil on earth. They say 86% of those who rape and do evil on earth are those who watch pornography for long periods of times. So now they have different types now. Pornography of various of levels. These people became sick into their actions of obsession. And it's those who, as Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيعَ الْفَاحِشَةَ. They want it to be spread and broadcast and out evil and indecency. In fact, they say every second now, unfortunately, there's 28,000 users watching pornography. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. This is made fair seeming, adorned. This is a temptation. We need to tell people to be more engaged in ibadah, to fix themselves spiritually. وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. The more engaged you are into your prayers, the more you are preserving of your salawat, the more you are engaged spiritually into that salat, ruknan, wa wajiban, wa sharta, and all of its pillars, you're going to find that it's going to prohibit you from ever watching such filth. If you were ever to see it, you would want to turn away. This is the matter, and we know what is greater than all of that. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ التَّسْنَى. The remembrance of Allah is greater than all of that. It helps you control your desires. It helps you ward off. You're able to watch something, and if you see that filth coming your way, you quickly disconnect yourself away from it. It was asked, some of the scholars of the past, how do we implement what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned of غض البصر, lowering the gaze? قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Say, O Muhammad, to the believers need to be reminded. They need to hear a reminder that will benefit them. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, for verily the reminder benefits the believer. Person said, we have people here that go to the masajid. Why do they need to hear this? They do need to hear this. Because they perhaps may come to them, someone they know, or they may get affected, or a desire of lust can affect them. فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٍ. It can affect them of what may arouse of sexual desires. So they're told to lower their gaze and to preserve their chastity. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. Whoever wants zakat nufus, whoever wants that what the Prophet ﷺ used to ask for, Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. That purifier of my soul is from the greatest means of that is lowering your gaze. For verily the eyes are channels to the heart. So we must answer with what the scholars of the past used to answer with, where they're asked, بِمَا يُسْتَعَانْ عَلَى غَضِّ الْبَصَرِ. How could we seek aid in lowering our gaze? قَالَ بِعِلْمِكَ أَنَّ نَظَرَ اللَّهِ أَسْبَقْ مِنْ نَظَرِكَ إِلَيْهِ. By knowing that Allah's seeing precedes your seeing of that affair. That Allah seeing you precedes you seeing that affair. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. He knows that treacherous glance. He knows when you take a look while no one else is looking. He knows that those who actually fear Him and control their lusts and restrain themselves. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَىٰ. As for the one who fears the standing of his Lord, he's God conscious of Allah throughout all times, not only when he's with his companions, في السر والعلن, secret and public. Some of our brothers, unfortunately, when they see certain contents in the public, they say astaghfirullah. But when he's alone, he's continuing, he doesn't say those words, he's perhaps lenient about the matter. We need to understand the ill effects of this affair. There are certain strategies that we're going to list to ward off what may happen. People who have even reached a level of righteousness have been affected by some of these affairs. We need to remind them the ill effects of it. Even the kuffar, they state that pornography often leads to a person not even enjoying intimacy with his partner. The wife with her husband and the husband with her wife. It makes the affair not of satisfaction, where they don't enjoy one another. In fact, they said in a studies of Harvard University, the Kuffar have stated this some years back, that 69% of divorces was due to one of the couples watching pornography. 69% of divorces. In fact, what they say now, that just a woman being in a state where she's unclothed, that is bad pornography to them. That is not even a good pornography. So they perhaps look at these acts and lower the affair of real intimacy. So we're going to mention a few affairs of strategies, inshallah. Now that we know the disease, we can know how to cure it. Once it's diagnosed, brothers, we can really try to address how to combat and deal with this. There's a war out there. Every time you're on the internet, you're at war. Your deen is at stake. Your religion is on the line. Your iman, your heart. Every website that you go, something is popping of these despicable images to affect you and your family. One of the number one things, as we mentioned, is muraqabatullah, remembering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see you. They said, could you imagine, take it to yourself to account, that Allah taking your soul while you're watching that affair. For verily a man is resurrected, يُبْعَثُ الْمَرْءُ عَلَى مَا مَاتَ عَلَيْهِ. Hadith Jabir. A man is resurrected upon the condition he dies on. So these people that perhaps are forwarding these things on WhatsApp to you. So the last thing he forwarded before he died, let's see. You're going to check to see what you can remember the person for, is this video that doesn't have the best content. It has images of people that are not fully clothed. He was sending it for you for a particular reason, but that is not something that you want to be remembered for, the last of your affair. Stop forwarding things of these content now. You're just quickly tagging along with everybody's forwards. Sometimes people now forward without even looking at what they're forwarding. He doesn't even finish the video. Forward. And it's already gone to someone else. وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And another thing too is to look of the iqab of Allah, the punishment of Allah upon these people that engage into these acts. The porn actors, Allah has, we've seen from what's apparent, has trialed them severely. With diseases, they even mentioned 66% of these porn actors have things of diseases that we know is taken from these acts that they're doing. And knowing also how they end up. If you read about some of these people who are most viewed as porn stars online, most of them are dead and buried, or those who are suffering now of so much diseases. In fact, the number one porn person of the stars is unable to walk. Diseases after diseases. Harb min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And looking at another affair is what it may lead to of people carrying the act of masturbation. Al-'ada as-sirriya. Don't believe those who say there's no harm in that act whatsoever. And don't believe those who say that Ibn Abbas permitted it. No, Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu just mentioned that it is less than zina, but it doesn't mean it's allowed. Both of them are evil, and people have seen the harm of it, physically and spiritually, of diseases. What we find now of these affairs, it is taysir al-fawahish. Indecency has been made easy. People keep thinking that they're alone. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. How much time I have left, inshallah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created man, and He knows what that soul of his is whispering. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we're closer to Him than His own jugular. These people now, some of them are introducing pornography, is under the claim to learn how to be with a woman. These are attempts to mislead people. In fact, they say those who watch pornography, when they're with the real relationship in marriage, they don't enjoy their relationship. It leads to a poor relationship of the two spouses. And we also point out towards the women that they are also targeted in these websites. They said 1 in 3 porn visitors of websites is a woman. A lot of these people that are going on these websites are women as well. Women are also targeted. They go into these affairs, and we know that there's a lot of money being put into these industries, or they said it's projected in the year 2025 that pornography is a 1 billion business. That's the third behind what's expected behind the video game industry or the market, and also certain NFL related content. So it's going to be from the highest of what is on the market, of what produces wealth, so people are going to target it more. We need to remind each other that what people observe online and YouTube particularly, we're slowly becoming desensitized. إذا كثر الإمساس قل الإحساس. When people become more easy of seeing certain things, they become less sensitized or less in a state of caution regarding it. You find that they're willing to look at certain videos now. A more practicing brother, he's willing to look at certain videos and it doesn't affect him at all. Tell him, brother, this is a person that is kasiya, ariya, semi-naked, if not, there's just perhaps nothing except on her body except a piece of cloth or so forth, or the same for the other gender. We find people looking at these things for educational purposes. They're looking for something behind of another topic, the news or whatever they're looking at, and they don't realize that there's something that is put into there of a sahmun masmuma min siham al-iblis, a poisonous arrow that is going to affect them. You're looking at people who in reality do not want to dress like that. They hate themselves. If you've seen these people who dress like this, these models, even the person that is dressed like that on the news, they're not happy like that, but this is their lifestyle for them to survive and to meet the standards of life. It is sickening to see even Muslim YouTubers having podcasts with women that are not completely dressed, not in a state of modesty, drawing a huge traffic of Muslim young youth to watch it alongside them. And then they choose specifically the most beautiful of women, because they know the most views is going to come their way. So this is what is aimed down. And even also same thing, they choose the most beautiful of young men and handsome men, or dressed in a particular way, to do some particular show. It's a topic of why specifically they choose that person or that woman? To get the glance and to draw and arise the desires of the people. And even with women now, of our Muslim sisters, they have become even obsessed with the appearance of even Muslim da'is online. They're staring at particular handsome da'is, as they say, and brothers, and they're following basically because of their looks. And she puts herself to trial. She becomes maftoona. Most of the online subscribers to these da'is now are women, especially just because of their looks. They're looking at, yes, the content is there, they're listening to the lectures, but they're really engaged of how this da'i looks. They're looking at everything, zoomed in. They assume that this doesn't affect or doesn't cause any lust. And little do they know it's a plot of the devil. It is a trial indeed. We remind them, and also the brothers of the hadith of Thawban, لَعَلَمَنَّ أَقْوَامًا مِنْ أُمَّتِي يَأْتُونَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ بِحَسَنَاتٍ أَمْثَالِ جِبَالِ تِهَامَةٍ. How much time I have left, inshallah? Certainly I know a people of my nation who will come on the day of resurrection with good deeds, like the mountain of Tihama. This is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ found in Sunan al-Majah and others. فَيَجْعَلُهَا عَزَّ وَجَلَّ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. But Allah will make them like scattered dust. Thawban said, O Messenger of Allah, describe them to us and tell us more. صِفْهُمْ لَنَا جَلِّهُمْ لَنَا يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Describe these people that have good deeds like the mountain of Tihama, but will come and their dust, their righteous good deeds will become like particles of dust. هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. He said, they are your brothers and from your race. He says, أَمَا إِنَّهُمْ إِخْوَانُكُمْ وَمِنْ جِلْدَتِكُمْ. They are your brothers and from your race. And pay attention to this part. وَيَأْخُذُونَ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ كَمَا تَأْخُذُونَ. Worshipping at night as you do. You probably see them at the masjid praying, but they have a disease inside that they're struggling with, a weakness, with the affair of the opposite gender, watching certain content of lust and desire while no one knows. This is a weakness that many may perhaps have, but they don't share it, they don't ask for help. They have this challenge, this desire, they're struggling with it. And don't assume that this is not something that exists, it exists. And the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning it. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ أَقْوَامٌ إِذَا خَلَوْا بِمَحَارِمِ اللَّهِ انتهكوها. But they will be people who, when they're alone, transgress the sacred limits of Allah. You find these people, they start off probably watching a Netflix video, this soap opera, romance of this show, or these two couples talking about one another online on YouTube, how they got married, and so on. It starts off like that. Then it gradually leads to something else. And then another, khutuwatu shaitan, the footsteps of the devil. We ask Allah, أن يغنينا بحلاله عن حرام. That Allah makes us independent with His halal from His haram. وبطاعته من معصيته, and with His obedience from His sin. وبفضله عمن سواه, and that He suffices us with His bounties from that which is other than it. We must understand that these footsteps are creeping up onto our communities of the khutuwat shaitan. People are gradually watching certain things about women being interviewed, and it slowly starts off like that, then it leads to another, then another affair. And then we find even young brothers looking at Muslim models on Instagram, on TikTok, these things. You find that even some brothers are following online women that are doing makeup tutorials. This is true, brothers. It's a disease affecting. If you see this fitna, cut the roots. They say al-fitna, if you start seeing the temptation, you're supposed to cut it from its roots. Don't allow it to grow. It is a disease that it starts to continue and will affect you and your family. You must understand that even the cause of homosexuality being spread on the world, from the greatest causes is pornography. One of these professors of the kuffar, he brought out a studies by saying that what has brought homosexuality to a high level is pornography of a man looking at the content of both a man and woman engaged in true intimacy. Where you're not allowed to look at both of their affair, of their privacies, and you're looking at it, you're both into sins into that, and it lowers your guard and your control of looking at these affairs. So we must understand that this is a challenge, and it's a disorder, and it's affecting others, and it's a disease with an addiction. How many divorces are related to this? And me, I do marriage counseling, and before I left, I received a phone call at the masjid. A sister called, and this also happened before, that I caught my husband watching pornography. Should I immediately call for divorce? What should I ask for? What is the affair? This is the hardest of things that to receive as a phone call. These are from the hardest affairs, especially from people of our community that who know better, but they're challenged with these diseases. So, what we must understand, that pornography is not just on the internet, magazine, pictures, what people are wearing, their clothes, the sexual activity, the behavior, what people are doing, women and how they dance and so forth publicly, and male doing this. These are all calling to arise the desire. And in particular, the website or the medium and that app, TikTok, and these YouTube shorts. These YouTube shorts, person says, I just want to see something, a reaction video or this, what people are forwarding around, and he looks at the bottom, he just sees filth upon filth, pornography. Someone sends you a link, say, look at this talk of so-and-so. You click the link, you see right all up under it, pornography. Or maybe within the content of that same video, you see indecent behavior. These YouTube shorts that people are clicking, And these TikTok videos have a lot of it. It's affecting the Muslim community at large. So what a lot of people do nowadays to get views is that they bring the beauty of the gender for one to the other so they could draw views through attraction of the glance. For me to get views, I'm going to go around and interview beautiful young kafir women that are unclothed and ask them about something that I'm supposedly supposed to do for da'wah. And I want all my youngsters online to watch it. They go watch. Why are you going to question these women that are half naked and displayed on one of your biggest channels that is to the Muslim community of youngsters? What is the objective? Why are you displaying this content? And ask them silly questions and laughing alongside with them and removing the modesty. This is sickness upon sickness. This person's objective is the views. He knows you're going to watch it when you see in the thumbnail a beautiful woman that is half naked and is supposedly a Muslim YouTube channel. Shaitan has even made it more fair seeming. So you're going to click it. Whereas if it was just a kafir channel, you perhaps shy away. But now that it's a Muslim YouTuber, you're going to want to click it. And you become lenient about the matter. اتقوا الله في أنفسكم. اتقوا الله في أنفسكم. Remember, you're going to stand in front of Allah for every little affair. وقفوهم إنهم مسؤولون. Let them pause, they're going to be questioned. For every young man and young woman that becomes child of lust and desire, because of your content, you'll be questioned of it. You'll be asked in فَمَنَةَ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. People that were struggling, they looked up to you. They assumed that you would guide them to good content for their soul. And you corrupted their hearts. You'll be questioned in front of Allah. أَمَامَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَالْآخِرِينَ. In front of the first and the last. This is a topic of mas'uliyah. Are many people are being snatched away from practicing brothers and Muslim sisters because of this filth online. And there's people increasing fuel to the fire. We must remind with making dua. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min sharri asma'ina wa min sharri absarina wa min sharri alsinatina wa min sharri qulubina wa min sharri mani'ina. We must seek refuge, as it comes in Sunan Tirmidhi, from the evil of our hearing and our evil of our seeing, and our evil of our tongues, and our evil of our hearts, and the evil of our private parts. We must ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify us day and night. Allahumma tahir qulubana wa hassin furujana. We ask Allah to purify our souls and to cleanse our bodies from this filth. They say the number way to address this matter is the first step is recognizing that you're in a problem in the first place, that you're in an addiction. Once you understand, you can realize there's a change required. The next step is knowing how to identify what triggers these consumptions that you're doing online and what is leading to it. What is the affair? This is from the affairs to look at, oh my fellow brothers and sisters in Islam. The third step is to share the situation of your problem with someone who you trust, seeking advice. إِذَا اسْتَنصَحَكْ فَانصَحْ لَهُ. From the rights of a Muslim has to another Muslim is that when they seek advice regarding their situation, that you give them advice. Many cases, some perhaps need professional help, perhaps need therapy, perhaps need certain ways of how to quit this problem. They struggle with this addiction. It may require gradually to ward it off and to wean it off, but it's a disease that you have to start now. Finally, the important point is to understand that this is a disease that is affecting our communities at large. Perhaps someone in your household or someone in your family is watching these contents, and little do you know it is affecting them in their deen, affecting them in their behavior. So one is, even as a kafir, he reported in his ways of dealing with this, he says, is to look at God's purpose for humanity. Look at God's purpose in why He created humanity, and why He created man and woman, and why He allowed the affair of this intimacy to occur. Look at the purpose and look at what pornography is doing. These images now, that even pornography, it has affected marriages where people perhaps just get married just for intimacy. Nothing else. That's why there's so much marriage breakup. They get married thinking it's like what they see online. This is affecting marriages. And you find that even couples, they treat one another in their intimacy as they perhaps seen online, of behavior that is of indecency. We must understand that marriages have collapsed due to this. And if you're not married, perhaps if you did watch this affair, it will affect you in your marriage. It even affects pornography, the view on women. It treats women of the lowest of lowest, as just a mere sex object. In fact, in some of these films, it is treated as a woman is something that is looked down at and treated in a disfigured manner. The women themselves who are doing these acts hate themselves. So many of them have committed suicide. The suicide rate of these women that do pornography is so high, it's unbelievable. This is something that you don't want to resemble them in their actions, in their deeds or whatever. You have the ways of what is permitted, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made in marriage, of mawadda wa rahmah, in love and affection, and showing that marriage is greater than merely intimacy of what is called of sexual activity, but is greater than that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us all, and we ask us to be of those who, if you have, as one of the mashayikh of Medina says, if this fold, if this is your cause of you not being able to control it, you're controlling yourself, then it's better for you to destroy it and disoppose it. Meaning, if you know that something is a problem, you must completely close that door. If you want to limit yourself, delete that app. Don't go on the app completely. If you know that particular timings of your idle time, you might go surfing on the web, turn off your internet. Keep the Quran apps at full. So many Quran apps. Fill it up. Make sure every screen of yours have a Quran app there ready, just for a reminder. Make sure every time you're swiping, you have the book of Allah reminding you there. We ask Allah with His beautiful names and lofty attributes, أن يهدينا إلى السواء السبيل, that He guides us all, and to make us of the people who hear our speech and follow the best of it. والمعذرة إلى الإطالة, we prolong and forgive us for the إطالة. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.